美国波士顿交响乐团第一次来到中国。
In spring 1979, America's Boston Symphony Orchestra came to Beijing at the invitation of the Chinese government. The famous conductor, Seiji Ozawa, went on to enjoy a Chinese music exchange at the Central Conservatory of Music after conducting the orchestra through a successful performance. His eyes were filled with tears when young concert performer Zhang Jianhua completed the solo, "The Moon Over a Spring." The former chairman of the Chinese Musicians Association, Zhao Feng, accompanied Mr. Ozawa at the event and later recalled the occasion, "I will never forget the sight of Mr. Ozawa listening to the moon over a spring." Ozawa himself said, "If I've heard this kind of music before, it would have changed the way of working. People should listen to this kind of music on their knees." After he spoke these words, he got up from his chair and kneeled down in homage to the music.
有人将二泉乐和交响乐命运做比较，这两首作品尽管在题材、风格和形式上面差异很大，但是夏兹阿炳和贝多芬苦难的命运是相同的，他们辛酸、痛苦、愤怒、抗争，所以他们有同样深刻的命运主题，同样丰富的音乐语言，成就了他们同样强大的艺术魅力。
As one of the most popular symbols of Chinese culture, the late Premier Zhou Enlai used to give recordings of the moon over a spring to foreign dignitaries. Nowadays, the large clock at the top of the centuries-old library in Wuxi's Chong'an district still chimes the music every day on the hour. What kind of person was Hua Yanjun, better known as Abing? This statue is a kind of freehand sculpture which depicts Abing in a battered hat and ragged, shabby clothes. At one time, Abing had been a poor busker and was only really known and accepted as a gifted musician after his death. Abing was born at the end of the Qing dynasty. He lived through the turmoil of China's early 20th century history, dying just after the founding of New China. Musicologist Yang Yinliu was one of his closest friends. In his book on Abing, Yang writes that Abing's father was Hua Qinghe, chief priest at the Dongxiu Taoist temple in Wuxi. Abing was born in 1893. His mother and father were not married. This flew in the face of morality at the times. His mother had to return to her family and died in desolation when her son was just 4 years old. Mr. Hua sought a foster family for his son. When he was 8, Abing returned to his father at the temple. This was the generally accepted story of his origins, but later scholars have questioned this.
这个说法有出路。阿炳呢，自幼父母双亡，那么后来呢，就购寄给雷震帝的张家道士华清河当儿子，又是他的师傅。对于阿炳生身父母是谁，现在还没定论。
Abing's origins are still a mystery, even today. An article signed Bu Lu, published in the Xinyi Daily, is the first published information about his origins. It says, Abing's family name was Yan, and his personal name was Bingshang. His family was very poor. He went into a temple and became a Taoist as a way of helping his family, not least because they could not feed him. Legend has it that the 62nd generation Taoist master Yang Yuanshu traveled to Wuxi when Abing was just 3 years old. Hua Qinghe asked Mr. Zheng to choose a family name for the boy. Zheng was surprised when he saw Abing and said that he would become an immortal. Therefore, he named him Hua Yanjun. Although this legend has often been questioned, one thing is for sure. Hua Qinghe went all out to encourage Abing to become a Taoist master through music. Dongting Town, where Abing grew up, is famous for its music. He was influenced by local ballads, dramas, and Taoist music from an early age. Hua Qinghe was a master of Taoist music and a skilled Chinese lute player. He did all he could to develop Abing's musical ability and took him to hear Kunqiu opera. Hua also sent Abing to a traditional private school where he studied for 3 years. All this indicates that Hua had chosen Abing as the heir from the very beginning.
华清河要把阿炳培养成一个才华出众的道士，以便出人头地。道教的吹、拉、弹、打，还有无锡地区的梵音锣鼓，全部要学会。冬练3九，夏练3伏，有一套固定的程式，就如戏曲科班的练功。
阿炳的音乐悟性很高，练习敲钹的时候，别人还没有学会怎么敲闷钹，就是打出那个噗噗的声音，他已经能够随着乐曲的演奏打出准确的节拍来。因为华清河的关系，加上阿炳天资聪明，所以其他乐师都很乐意教他，使阿炳的技艺长进很快。
There is still a Taoist tradition at Wuxi's Shuixian Temple that followers should gather in the 9th month of the lunar calendar for 3 days of prayer and repentance. The ceremonies were held to invoke the help of the gods and other celestial beings in bringing fortune and fulfillment in the coming years and the avoidance of disasters. In 1910, the 17-year-old Abing stood out for his drumming at the Summer Repentance Ceremony. At that time, Taoist music performances were held at various Taoist temples. It was similar to an open tournament. The performance level of a band was directly related to the reputation and popularity of the Taoist temple the band members represented. The musicians always did their best to win. However, something was wrong when it came to Lei Zun's Hall's turn to perform. The drummer did not appear on the stage. At that time, the drummer played a role that was as important as that of an orchestral conductor nowadays. In such a critical situation, a guest teacher recommended that Abing should have a try. While Hua Qinghe was still hesitating, the young Abing had already sat down on the seat. Seconds later, the classic 18 beats echoed out across the auditorium.
粗细四座锣鼓18拍呢，是无锡道教音乐锣鼓中一首很有代表性的作品。粗就是加唢呐加大鼓，细就是用丝奏用笙来表演。那么这是一首特别讲究配合，而且技法艰深的一首乐曲。那么他要求呢，那个鼓手啊，在统领乐队和掌握10几种打击乐器中间默契配合，完美演奏。而阿炳呢，他就具有这样的统领能力。
With Abing providing the drum beats, the band's performance was rhythmic and emotional. The audience cheered when they finished playing. Other musicians who were present claimed that even though Abing had not rehearsed, he acted like a true master in controlling the situation. From then on, he became famous in Taoist music circles, and his honorary title, Young Taoist Master, spread very quickly.
我经常听我师傅讲，当时的阿炳啊，个子高，嗓音亮，反应锣鼓啊，样样精熟，步刚唱章啊，样样精通。华清华更是挺喜欢他的，让他当了雷真殿的主事。主事啊，就是我们道教的当家道士。
Abing should have become a renowned Taoist and lived the rest of his life in the Taoist temple. Why did the prodigy become a poor, blind busker later in life? The sacred rules of Taoism could not keep the successful Taoist at the temple. He left, wishing to make his way in the world outside. Young In Liu was born into a scholarly family. He was introduced to Abing to teach him music from the southern regions of China. One day, Abing saw that Yang was kneeling in the ancestral hall. He asked someone what was going on and was told that Yang was being punished for not following his father's instructions. Yang's father forbade him from socializing with Abing because of his humble status. However, Yang refused to obey his father's orders and often argued with him about it. Before long, Yang was forced to leave Wuxi and was never heard from again. The whole matter was a deep blow to Abing and made him realize that despite his honorary title, Young Taoist Master, he was still regarded as very humble in the eyes of high society figures. Being very proud in the face of others' disrespect, Abing became rebellious and began to spend more and more time smoking opium and visiting brothels. He did many things to rebel against orthodoxy. The price of Abing's rebellion was great. Before the age of 30, his vision began to go blurry. Another close friend of his, Li Songshou, recalled how Abing went from a robust Taoist priest to a begging blind busker within 3 years of his father's death.
有些人认为阿炳丧无失明是因为嫖娼引起的。阿炳呢，确实是一度嫖娼吸毒，染上性病，也是有这个事实的。但是因此断言阿炳是因嫖娼引起丧无失明，就很难说。况且呢，这个嫖妓跟这个抽鸦片就不一定会导致丧无失明，所以呢，还是阿炳自己的讲法呢，可能比较符合实际。他是说呢，得了眼病以后没有接受治疗，才引起丧无失明的。
Another factor which resulted in the great change in Abing's destiny was his affection for a lady named Raju. She had been married to a member of the local gentry who had divorced her unexpectedly. After that, she went to work as a receptionist in a tea house where she met Abing, who soon fell in love with her. He was attracted by her knowledge and experience and her sense of fun. He truly loved her. However, his affection came to nothing. Because Raju was also an opium addict, their relationship was often strained. As his eyesight worsened, they quarreled more frequently. The root cause was almost always their lack of money.
听当年阿炳的邻居们说过，他和阿朱最后的一次争吵，是因为阿朱偷偷地把雷真理的法器卖掉了。法器是当家道长最尊贵的东西，没有了法器，也就没有了当家道长的资格和尊严。
After that, Raju left him and never returned. Her departure was the heaviest blow he had ever experienced. Soon afterwards, he went completely blind and took up busking for a living. However, just as Li Song-shou said, he was lucky that he could still make his way through life as a musician, even though the door had been closed on being a Taoist master. He mainly busked in today's Chong'an Temple Street, where there was a popular tea house. Every day, he would draw a substantial crowd by early afternoon. In his book, A Brief Biography of Abing, Yang Yin Liu describes Abing as a man who wore sunglasses for no reason and dragged his feet when he walked down the street while playing the two-string huqin, or spike fiddle. In addition, he would please the audiences by singing songs about local news and current affairs, as well as imitating the sounds of animals and people on his instruments.
阿炳在每次说唱新闻以前呢，他总归会用琵琶和二胡做各种魔声的表演，比如说在二胡上面模仿鸡鸣狗叫，在琵琶上面模仿各种鼓声，他以此来招揽听客。那么听客呢，让他模仿什么，他就会模仿什么，他非常的逼真而且生动，以此呢，大家情绪非常的高涨。
阿炳的魔声技巧很高明，他可以用琴声来模仿人的讲话。有一次，他碰到一个叫小墨子的人，他就用琴声来讲话：“是小墨子来了吗？吃饭今天吃的什么菜啊？咸菜豆白汤。哦哟，鲜得嘞！”
Singing the news was his unique skill. He combined important events and anecdotes into rhyming lyrics that were full of wit and humor. The audiences loved it.
阿炳说新闻的来源主要有两个，一个是街头传闻，一个是报纸。当时来这里有两个报纸是必卖的，一个是《新报》，一个是《人报》。那么阿炳每天的必做功课就是叫邻居的8大孩子给他读报。
A good example of his new singing was his song about Wu Zhenrong. Wu was a main figure of the Green Gang, which committed all manners of crimes. He was nicknamed Shakuzi because of his hoarse voice. Japanese troops occupied Wuxi in November 1937, and Shakuzi became the puppet commissioner of police. Abing teased him in song and prayed for Wu's speedy demise, hoping he would die in his boots.
沙克兹是个呼风唤雨的人，从来也没人敢指名道姓骂他，所以呢，他恼羞成怒，想了法子要迫害阿炳。但是当他这个计划还没实施，就被抗日武装的楚监队给击毙了。从此老百姓说这个阿炳小天使还真灵验。从此以后呢，阿炳开骂呢，还真的没有人敢拿他怎么样。
When Wuxi was occupied, the Japanese troops set fire to the city and went on a 7-day looting spree. The Chong'an district was left in ruins. Abing fled and wandered in other regions of China for more than a year. He provided music for theater performances, accompanied bands, and even appeared in a film. During this period, he was exposed to a lot of folk music. The 8 years of the anti-Japanese war were the most difficult of his life, but also the peak of his musical career. Young said the realm of Abing's music was broadened by endless darkness and unceasing hardships. He started to actively create his own music, instead of carrying on the teachings of his master and imitating his skills.
抗战以前呢，阿炳卖唱的范围呢，主要在崇安市附近。那么抗战期间呢，社会很混乱， 阿炳出于生计呢，常常要出城，有的时候呢到惠山、到天下第二泉附近，有的时候呢要到城北渡口码头人多的地方进行卖场。那么遇到日军封城呢，往往进出城门啊会遇到一些麻烦。
It was when he was busking that he got to know Dong Cui Di. He lived with her in the latter part of his life. Dong was a widow from a poor family in Jiangyin. She liked to listen to Abing playing the erhu. Even more importantly, she needed to make a living too, so she often took him out busking in the streets. The Moon Over a Spring was one of Abing's tunes at that time, although it had no name. During the latter period of the anti-Japanese war, in order to prevent the Chinese resistance from launching attacks, the Japanese troops closed the city gates at dusk. This meant many citizens were locked out of the city at night. When this happened to Abing, he would play the erhu outside the city gates. The melancholy sound lingered around the shadow-filled moat. The Japanese gate guards could not bear the overwhelming sadness of the music, so they would always open the gate for Abing and let him and the other citizens in.
阿炳的人生是凄凉悲苦的，在他的性格中也有开朗张扬的一面，比如在他的音乐作品中，琵琶曲《龙船》很激郁、很喜庆、很欢快，就很能说明这一点。
Dragon Boat is based on a difficult-to-play pipa melody Abing adapted from southern Jiangsu folk tunes. Its subject matter is the happy scene of dragon boat racing during the Dragon Boat Festival. On the day of victory in the anti-Japanese war in 1945, the army and civilians of Wuxi held a grand celebration. Abing joined the celebrating crowds in the streets. Li Songshou described the scene in his book, Abing, the Blind Composer. He played Dragon Boat on the pipa with great passion and shouted loudly, "A dragon boat came here, and another dragon boat came here." He and all the other cheerful people shouted, "It's the rebirth of our land, and fortune is smiling." He expected that fortune would smile on him. With the change in the political situation, what would happen to Abing? How would his nameless melodies, especially The Moon Over a Spring, become known as classics passed down over generations? Please join us for part 2 of Legend of Abing.